The first objective of Chapter 9 is what's your problem? A key component of consumer behavior is decision making. Yet there are many differences in the way we evaluate and choose products, as well as the amount of thought we put into these selections, depending on factors like decision level of novelty or risk. While we make some of the judgment automatically, others are significant and need serious consideration. Firstly, I will talk about hyperchoice. Ironically, for many of us, one of our biggest problems is not having too few choices, but rather too many. Consumer hyperchoice forces us to make repeated decisions that may drain psychological energy while decreasing our abilities to make smart choices. For example, many girls have experienced the feelings of selecting favorite lipstick color that suit ourselves over many other colors out there. This part is also about self-regulation. Each of us fights a constant battle to control our desire, whether this involves splurging on expensive clothes or cheating ourselves with fattening snacks. Many factors, both internal, for example, willpower, and external, such as peer pressure, have to determine whether or when we give in. In recent years, researchers and marketers have become more and more aware of the role they can play in changing consumer behavior by helping people with regulate their own actions, such as there are many phones apps nowadays for dieters or perhaps wearable computing devices like Fitbit that tells you how many steps you take in a day. The second objective of Chapter 9 is cognitive decision making. A typical decision involves several steps. The first one is problem recognition. When we realize we must take some action, this recognition may occur because current perception manifests, or perhaps because we have a desire for something new. Once the consumer recognizes a problem and sees it as sufficiently important to warrant some action, he or she begins the process of information search. The internet has changed the way many of us search for information. Today, our problem is more likely to without access detail than rather search for information. Comparative search sites and intelligent agents have to filter and guide the search process. In the evaluation of alternative state, the option a person considers constitute his or her evoked set. Members of evoked set usually share some characteristics. We categorize them similarly. The way the person mentally groups products influenced with alternative C will consider, and usually we associate some brands more strongly with the categories. When the consumer eventually must make a product choice from among alternatives, he used one of several decision rules. First one is non-compensatory rules. The second is compensatory rules. Once the consumer makes a choice, he or she engages in post-purchase evaluation to determine whether it was a good one. This assessment in turn influences the process in the next time problem occurs.
Let's talk about neuromarketing. Neuromarketing uses fMRI to take an up-close look on how our brain responds to marketing, product design features. And scientists know that specific regions of the brain light up in the scan to show the increased blood when the person does some specific thing like recognize a face in a song. In the research of brain scans, when Coca-Cola and Pepsi Coke's strong brand identity trumped the sensation coming from respondent taste receptors. Subintermediary describe a website or app that help us to filter and organize online market information. Direct directories and portals such as Yahoo or Dognot are general services that tie together a large variety of different sites. Forum, fan club, and user group offers produce related decisions to help customers, and intelligent agents are sophisticated software programs that learn from the past user to recommend new purchase. And also, Google is a search engine that conducts information search. Search engine optimization, or SEO, is a procedure companies use to design their website so that more and more people will track into their website. Long tail is the basic idea that businesses no longer earn the benefit solely on big hit to make a profit. But how do we put product into categories? Consumer cognitive represent product information in knowledge structure, and hybrid product are some products that feature characteristics of two or more distinct domains. In strategic implication of product characterization, we have 4 steps. First one is position a product. Next is identify competitors. Moving on is create an employer product, and finally is locate product in a store. Evaluative criteria are the dimension we use to judge the merits of competing opinions, and determinant attributes are features that we actually use it differentiate among our choice. The power of authenticity appeal in the market. Consumers today are often want to know where the things they are buying come from, so product authenticity increasingly has become the determinant attribute. Decision rule is pretty complicated. Compensatory rules allow product to make up for its shortcomings on one dimension by excelling one another, and there are 2 basic types of that rule. First one is a simple additive, and second one is a weighted additive. Non-compensatory rules is an option doesn't suit in one dimension, we can just easily reject it. Lexicographic rules say that select the brand that is the best on the most important attribute, and moreover, there's a elimination by aspect rule, believe that buyer also evaluates brands on their most important attribute. And finally is constructive rules. The decision of making established cutoff for each attribute.
Habitual decision-making refers to choices made with little conscious efforts. These decisions are often routine and made without realizing it. One example of habitual decision-making is snap judgment. Despite their name, these choices can be surprisingly accurate. Another concept associated with heuristic is bounded rationality, which refers to making decisions that are good enough rather than maximizing outcomes. Sometimes these shortcuts may not be in our best interest, but the perceived convenience of which may be enough to convince us to act on them regardless. Market beliefs, for example, like all brands being the same, can also influence decision making. These market beliefs can be found in Table 9.2 of the book. Common beliefs and heuristics that are attached to them are listed there. These beliefs include assumptions about brands, stores, prices, advertising, and products. Heuristics, or mental shortcuts, are used to simplify choices. These shortcuts range from general rule of thumbs to specific preferences. Many decisions are made automatically in our daily lives that uses heuristics. Inertia and brand loyalty are 2 familiar areas of marketing that are heavily linked to heuristics, the 2 of which can lead to repeat purchasing behavior. However, only inertia can be a manifestation of heuristics because it does not require a conscious effort from consumers like brand loyalty.
AI stands for Artificial Intelligence. Their applications will revolutionize how consumers interact with products as they come to the call center. AI personal shopper will help consumers to decide what to buy by diagnosing the caller personality and match him or her with a compatible chatbot. Prompt and nudging. This is the better way information about product choice. It frames how physical cues prompt us, can prompt our decisions. even when the consumer is unaware of this influence. This sensation is called context effects. It's just a matter of framing or how we pose questions to other people. For example, people hate losing more than like getting things. This tendency is called loss aversions, and how the values of decisions depends much on gains and loss. Principle of mental accounting relating to the way we frame questions as well. External factors shouldn't influence our choice, but they do anyway. If we bet for something, we're more reluctant to waste it. Researchers call this decision-making bias the sunk cost fallacy, and this explains the way organizations from their message can exert big influence on consumer behavior. Welcome to Chapter 10, Buying, Using, and Disposing. And for the buying, situational effects on consumer behavior are the factors at the time of purchase dramatically influence on the consumer decision-making process, and come to the consumption situations. In the world of consumptions, including buyers, sellers, products, and emotions, they are intertwined. Smart marketers will exploit and capitalize on these connections to influence our purchase decisions. This process including antecedent states, for example, mood, temperatures, or purchase environment, and then go on purchase environment, including points of purchase stimuli, and then lastly is post-purchase process, including consumer satisfaction, and go on. That I will go deeply on and present. Moving to the purchase environment, this we talk about the shopping experience. What is this shopping experience? And it is all the information we get at a store layout, website, or what the salespersons provide us. This strongly influences our purchase decisions. That's why design thinking is popular, as it's focused on creating products, service, and store aligned with how customers live and use them, rather than just being aesthetically pretty, pleasing us. This approach emphasizes that managers must break out the box and see things from the customer viewpoints, leading to the current password, the customer journey. And to go deeply into the antecedent state, we have to talk about the temporal factors. For example, I talk here is time. Yes, time is the most precious resource. When we talk about time as spending time, making times, or we frequently refer people to saying that time is money. When we have the luxury of time, we deliberate in our purchase-making process. For example, of the opposite, even the most careful shopper rush when Christmas Eve to grab a last-minute gift. This principle extends to online marketing, when email open rates vary by the time of day. Our experience of time is subjective, and people have different time allocation patterns. An individual time style is shaped by their unique priorities. The physiological dimensions of time, how we actually experience it, is an important factor in queuing theory. We assume that something must be pretty good to wait for it. The negative feelings that long waits around can quickly turn people off.
And coming to the next part, we're gonna discuss about mood. And in chapter 5, we have discussed how our mood at the time of purchase can really affect what we feel like buying, and two basic dimensions that determine whether we will react to a consumption environment are pleasure and arousal. And our mood can be affected by many factors, including store design, the weather, music, television programming, or whether you just had a fight with your significant one. And when we hear happy music or watch happy program, we experience more positive reaction to commercials and products. Next, when the going get tough, the tough go shopping, and I think is the joke from the author, which derived from an American proverb, which is when the going get tough, the tough get going. And so shopping serves either utilitarian purpose or hedonic purpose. And utilitarian purpose is the one that functional or tangible, whether a hedonic purpose is pleasurable and intangible. And we segment the consumer in terms of their shopping orientation, and shopping motivation influence how they react to different types of shopping environment. And hedonic shopping motive include social experience, sharing of common interest, status, the thrill of the hunt, and group pressure. Next part is e-commerce, clicks versus brick. So in order to understand more about this part, we're going to answer a question that will e-commerce eventually replace brick and mortar stores? So in order to answer this question, I will tell you a little bit of the benefit that traditional stores could provide but e-commerce store cannot. And the first one is a tangible experience. Next one is immediate gratification, social interaction, try before you buy, in-store event and atmosphere, and instant personalized assistance. Coming to the next part, which is digital currency. In here, we will study about the near-field communication technology, which also called the NFC technology, and peer-to-peer payment system, which also called the P2P payment system. And we will all study about the Bitcoin and how the data are transported to public, and some more about cryptocurrency. And so for the marketer, the growth of online e-commerce is a word that cut both ways. Next, we will find out about the store image, and careful store design increase the amount of space the shopper covers, and stimulating displays keep them in the house longer. And researchers have found that when people linger just 1% longer, the sale rose by 1.3%. And a store image is an important part of the retailing mix, and store design pay a lot of attention to the atmosphere, and these dimensions include color, sense, and sound. And besides that, researchers have found that music can also affect our eating habit too.
The next part is in-store decision making. Store displays are one of the most important factors that influence consumer purchase intention, and it is more heavier when it comes to food. Every consumers have their own mental budget, which consume of the budget that they prepare that they will spend, and the additional amount in mind that they decide while walking through aisles. And there are a lot of examples to convey the presence of product like sweets and snacks on the eye level. Shopping apps and in-store tech mobile apps provide imaginative way for retailers to walk consumers through the experience by solving a lot of like major hassle like long checking out line, or it's hard to finding products and comparing. Spontaneous shopping. There are two processes to portray why consumers buy a product. The first one is they buy it and plan, which means they didn't think about it first, but then they realize why going shopping. And the second one is impulse shopping, which is when they see a product, they point of purchase stimuli are promotional materials that influence a decision of purchasing, and well-designed in-store display has boosted the impulse buying by 10%. That's why there are a lot of improvement in packaging nowadays. A salesperson, a lead role in the play. A salesperson is one of the most important role in the drama because their interaction with consumer is a trade of value. Their age, their appearance, and level of education is which define a salesperson effectiveness, and their ability to adapt is very vital also to making consumer purchasing. The next part is ownership and the sharing economy. Well, the sharing economy or the collaborative economy is when consumers prefer to rent products rather than buying them, and there are many reasons such as it is easier to pay, easier to transact, and easier to verify portfolios from exchangers. Also, the preference of intimacy and a better concern about the environment in a sense of enough is promoting youngsters to minimize their purchasing amount, and that caused a new notion of commerce which is called P2P, which is peer-to-peer.
Satisfactions or dissatisfactions is more than a reaction to how well a product or service perform. According to the expectancy disconfirmations model, we form beliefs about product performance based on our prior experience with the product or communications about the product that imply a certain level of quality. When something performs the way we thought it would, we may not think much about it. If it fails to live up to expectations, this may create negative feelings. However, if performance happens to exceed our expectations, we happy campers. Product disposal is also an important element of consumer behavior. Because we do form a strong attachment to some product, it can be painful to get rid of it. For example, a person who's a big fan of Coca-Cola is more likely to recycle a Coke can than a Pepsi can. In many cases, we acquire a new product even though the old one still functions. That's one of the hallmarks of our materialistic society. Some reasons to replace an item include a desire for new features, a change in individual environment, or a change in the person's roles or self-image. We live in a throwaway society, which creates a problem for the environment and also results in a great deal of unfortunate waste. These pragmatic dimensions outweigh general attitude toward recycling and the environment in predicting one's intentions to recycle. Of course, one way to ease the pain is to reward consumer for recycling. The H&M chain sponsors a garment recycling program. Consumer can bring any garment from any brand in any conditions to an H&M store. For every bag of clothes donated, H&M gives customer a 15% discount for the next time they buy any clothes or item. Although traditional marketers don't pay much attention to used product seller, factors such as a concern about the environment, demand for quality, and cost and fashion consciousness make the secondary market more important. The new trend of e-commerce shows that many consumers want to squeeze more value out of their possessions by selling or trading.